We'll begin the Gemara today on Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis at the bottom, the very last words. The Gemara here was discussing the halachas of a get that was lost. When do you return the get to the Isha? So the Gemara here brings a story that happened. Rabbi Bar Bachane Irches Le Gitte. Rabbi Bar Bachane lost a get. Rashi says he was a shliach to deliver a get, and he lost his get where? Bei Medrasha, in the Beis Medrash. So Amar, he said as follows: Isamana isli begavei. If you will accept a simon that I'll give you, I have a simon here to tell you that this is the get I'm bringing. Itvi isaina isli begavei. If it's a certain how do I translate tvi isaina, like a certain a recognition that you can have, that you know even without a specific simon, but you have a certain eye to recognize that this is yours. So he says, I also can recognize it, that I know that it's mine. Isli begavei. So Adru and Ele, they gave it back to him. So Omar, Rabbi Babachana said afterwards, Lo yadaina, I'm not sure, imishum samana, Adru and Ele, did they give it back to me because I said I have a simon that's mine? And the kasavri, and therefore they gave it back to me because they were of the opinion that simonin the iraisa, that any simon you have in any object, min atayra, you have to give back the simon to the person that, you have to give back the Metzia, that is, to that person that gives the simon. The Gemara before brought here, and we'll see this later in Elu Metzias. There's a whole big discussion whether Simonim is Midiraisa or only Midirabanan. If Simonim is only Midirabanan, you give back something, money, something that has value, money, you give back. But a get, you're not going to give back because of this Takana Midirabanan, because it could be an issue of Eishes Ish. So he says, if they gave this back to me because of the Simen, it could be that they held that Simonim is Minat Teira, and therefore they're giving it back to me. Or maybe they only gave it back to me because I said I have a certain recognition with my eyes, that I know that it's mine, and that's stronger than a simon, and therefore they gave it back to me. Now the Gemara adds this concept of tviyas eine, that you recognize it and therefore it's returned to you, the dafke tzurbe midrabanan. This is specifically by a Talmud Chacham when you give it back with this recognition. Aval inish da'al malay. But otherwise, a regular person, Sama Ama Oretz, that says, I have a recognition with my eyes, I know that this is mine, even though I don't have a simon, we're chayshe that it's not his, and we don't give it back. So Dafka Talmud Chacham, like Rabbi Bar Bachane, could they rely on this Tviyas Eina that they would give it back to him? The Gemara goes back to a halacha that was mentioned before, again, regarding a get that was lost and now found in the street. So Gufe, the halach itself that we learned before, Matzah, get, Isha, Bishuk. A person finds a get of a woman that's in the street. So the Braisa says, in a time when the husband agrees and says that this belongs to her, give it back to her. Yachse Isha, you can give it back to her. But if the husband does not agree, Lo Yachse, Lo Lezeh, Lo Lezeh, you don't give it back, not to the husband and not to the woman either. So the Gemara explains. Bismansha Bal Maide was saying here that if the husband agrees and says give it back to her, Mia Yachsel Isha, we give it back to her. So the Gemara asks, why though? V'leiche, shouldn't we be concerned? And this is a kind of concern that the Gemara already brought up before regarding a shtar chayv, when you find a document of a loan. That Shema Kosav Litim Benissen, maybe he wrote the get with the date that there is on the get with the intention to give it to her in Nisan time. But he didn't end up giving her the get, so she wasn't divorced until Tishrei time. And now, if so, what's going to happen? So what's the problem if you give her back the get? Either way, she's divorced. So let her have the get. But the problem, though, is going to be regarding properties that she had when she was married, the properties that she brings into the marriage, which are called nichsei melog. So the husband is the one that can eat the fruits of those properties. He can eat it for himself. He can sell it to someone else. So if the date in the get that she has is the wrong date when that get was actually given to her, so therefore what could happen here? The husband goes and he can sell these fruits from Nisan time until Tishrei time. He's selling the fruits because he didn't divorce her yet. But now the woman's going to come. She receives back this get from the husband, this get that was lost, and now fine, you're going to give it back to her. She's going to take out this get that has the date on it that she was already divorced from Nisan time. And then she's going to go to those people that bought these fruits from her husband between Nisan and Tishrei and say, look, I was already divorced from Nisan time. My ex-husband wasn't allowed to sell these fruits in this time. So therefore, how can you give back this get over here? This is based on the point that the Gemara said earlier regarding when you have a found document, that the fact that it got lost, there's a reyes, there's something is wrong with it. So therefore, we should have this chashash. that the date in this get is not the actual time when she was divorced. As the Gemara explains that this problem is not according to everybody, because there's a machlokes about this in Masechta Gittin. Now, this wouldn't be a question, according to the opinion that says, as soon as a husband puts his eyes on his wife, in other words, he makes the decision that he's going to divorce her, and we see it by the fact that he already wrote her the get, and he wants to give her a get, the husband doesn't have any more the right to eat any of the fruits of the property. So then shaper. Then it's not a problem, because then the husband can't go and sell from the paytas that he sold in this time. If the Isha comes and wants to collect them back for herself, she's right. Because if the get was written already in Nisan time, she's able to collect it back, because the husband had no right to eat or to sell those paytas from when the get was written. But according to the opinion that says that the husband has a right to eat these fruits, to sell these fruits until the time when he gives her the get, so then what are you going to say? She might come and collect the fruits from her earlier that was sold from before when she got the get. Answers the Gemara. You're right. So therefore, ki asya lemitraf amrin, if she's going to want to use this get that we know that was lost and that she found it was given to her, when she's going to want to use it to collect from a buyer for these fruits within those 6 months, amrin, we're going to tell her, prove, bring Eidim that will tell us when exactly the get was given to you, so we can give her back the get. She'll have a get, a proof that she was divorced, but at the same time, we're not going to allow her to collect fruits from a buyer from the date that was written on the get. She's going to have to bring proof when exactly the get was given to her. So it's not a problem to give it back to her. So based on this answer, the Gemara now goes back to what the halacha that we had before regarding a shtar chayv. When you find a document of a loan, where there the Gemara says that you don't give it back because the date might be wrong. Why can't we use the same solution that we said over here? As the Gemara asks now. So the Gemara, but if so, why is this any different from a document of a loan? Where the Mishnah said before, you find a document of a loan, and if it's written in it that you can collect from buyers, don't give it back to the lender. And what did we explain? One of the pshatim that we explained before, why not? We explained that the case there is the loiva, the borrower, admits that he didn't pay up yet. So why don't you give it back to the lender? Because what we're concerned is, maybe this shtar was written the date that says in it Nisan time, but and he didn't borrow until Tishrei, 6 months later. And then what happens? You will come to collect your loan from those buyers from the time before you even borrowed the money. So how could you give it back to this lender? So the Gemara's question is, but Hasam Nami, why don't we say over there the same thing that we said here regarding the get? Lahader, give it back to the lender, let him have the shtar that he can collect his loan, because we're not concerned that this is not a true loan. The leiv is here, the leiv is admitting that he still owes the money. So give it back to him. And if he'll want to not collect the money from the buyers of the leiv, so we'll tell him, bring proof for exactly the time when you got the shtar chayv. In other words, when was the actual date that you lent the money? So we can give it back, and then we'll have to prove if he wants to go and collect money from the buyers, just like we said regarding the get. So the Gemara says, no, a get and a shtar chayv is not the same thing. Omri, they answer as follows. Gabi get isha, when it comes to a get by an isha, asi lekeach v'tova. The lekeach is going to come forward, and he's going to make a claim that this Isha that's trying not to take the paytas away from me has no right to take away the paytas from me. The get doesn't prove anything because the date on the get is not the time when she got the get. The lekeach, the buyer, is going to come forward with such a claim, because Amar, he's going to say to himself, Hi, the hadrua nehle rabbanan legita. The fact that the rabbanan gave her back this get with this date, why did they give her back the get? Not because she has the right to collect from me the fruits that her husband sold. The only reason they gave her back the get is mishum delay ta'agim v'teisev. So she shouldn't be an aguna. She shouldn't be stuck without a proof that she was divorced. So they had to give her back the get. But hashda the ka'asi l'mitra, now that she wants to use the get to take back the fruits that I bought in this time period, teisev v'teisiraya emis matagita liyada. Let her bring proof when she got the get and when she was actually divorced, and then until then I'm not going to give her back the fruits that her husband sold me. So the buyer will be thinking in this way. He'll come forward to make this claim that she has no right to take away the fruits from me. However, when it comes to a document of a loan, once you give it back to the lender, the buyer is not going to realize, he's not even going to think to make any claim over here. The buyer, the lender is going to come to the buyer and say, look, I have a shtar that's mine, and has a date in it that says that the loan was before when you bought the property, the buyer is not going to think that he has any counterclaim to that. He's not going to come to say anything. Why? Because the buyer is going to say to himself, Omar, the Bachir adds, Omar, the buyer is going to say to himself, Midahadrua nehalei rabbanon l'shtar chayv. If the Chachamim gave him this shtar chayv with this date, why are they giving it back to him? Pshita, lamai hilchasa adrua nehalei. Definitely, the only reason, the only relevance of why they gave him back the shtar chayv is lemitraf. Lemitrafu. The only reason they gave it back to him is so he can come and confiscate from me, from the buyer. Just the fact that the Malva should be able to collect the loan, he doesn't need a shtar for that. The Loive is admitting. The Loive is admitting that he owes the money. There was no reason to give back the shtar chayv. The only reason they gave back the shtar chayv was in order for him to be able to confiscate my properties. So Shmami no, Komer Rabbana b'Milsa. So the buyer says to himself, it must be that the Chachamim researched this matter, and Umekami Didi mat the shtar liyadeh. And before me, he got this shtar. He already borrowed the money, or he lent the money, that is, the lender lent the money before I bought this property. And therefore, he has a good claim. He's not even going to think to himself that he should make a counterclaim in Bezdin, that maybe, let's research, maybe the loan happened after I bought this property. So therefore, giving back a shtar chayv, you can't say give it back, and then when he's going to want to collect from the buyers, we'll tell him, prove that your loan was before this guy bought the property, because the buyer might not even realize this, and he'll just end up allowing this person to confiscate the property, shaloi kedin, because we can't rely on the date in this shtar chayv. Okay, the Gemara goes back to one of the cases that was mentioned in the Mishnah. Shechrurei avodim v'chulu. If you find a document that frees an eved, so you don't return it, because it could be that it was written and the Adda, the master, changed his mind and decided he doesn't want to give it. So the Gemara brings a brayse that elaborates more on this halacha. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a brayse, Motz shtar shechra b'shok. You find a shtar of freedom for an eved in the marketplace. So Bizman Sharav Maide, if the master is here and he admits and he says, yep, this is the shtar that I wrote for my eved and I gave it to him, Yachsel eved, give it back to the slave. But Ein Rav Maide, if the Rav, the master is in, he does not admit that he gave it to him, Lo Yachser, Lo Lezeh, V'Lo Lezeh. You don't give it back, not to the master and not to the slave. So the Gemara now explains. What did it say here in the Brayse? Bizman Sharav Maide, if the master is here and he admits that he gave it to the slave, so Mia Yachser Le'eved, you give it back to the eved. So again, the Gemara is going to discuss why over here are we not concerned that the date in this shtar shichrur is incorrect, similar to the other cases. So why are we returning it to the Yeved? Neche, shouldn't we be concerned? He wrote this shtar shichrur to give to the Eved to free him in Nisan time. He didn't end up freeing him until 6 months later in Tishrei. And now what could happen here? What could go wrong? This slave went and bought a property in this time period between Nisan and Tishrei, so he's still a slave. So that property belongs to who? It belongs to the master. Now, the master goes and sells it to someone. And now that this slave gets back this shtar shichrur that has a date that's written in it, that he was freed already from Nisan time, the kasav b'Nisan. So this eved now will take this shtar shichrur that's written in it, the date that he was freed already from Nisan, the katar of lakuchas shalei kedin, and he's going to go and confiscate now this property from the buyer. He's going to say, who sold you this property? My master. I was already free from Nisan time. He wasn't my master at that time, so the property was mine, and he's going to confiscate the property shalei kedin. So again, the same point, how can we give back this shtar shichrur if we can't rely on the date? He might come and confiscate shalei kedin. So now the Gemara explains, based on what we learned before about this, when you write a document and you sign it. So the Gemara says like this: this case is understood. There's no question here. According to the opinion that says it's something which is beneficial for a slave to be freed from his master. When he gets freed from his master, now he's able to marry and a yid. So therefore, it's something which is beneficial for him. So even without asking him, you could do it for his sake. And then we can say the following point, Uke'abaya. So therefore we could say that when this shtar shichrur is written and signed, we follow what Abaya said. The Omar, Abaya said, Eidav b'chasumav zachin lei. That Chachamim made a takana, that when witnesses sign a document, that from the time of the signature is when, Abaya said it before regarding a loan. When you sign a document of a loan, from the time of the signature, that date is when it takes effect, even if the money wasn't borrowed until later. So over here as well, even if the shtar shichrur was given to the Eved 6 months later in Tishrei time, but because Chachamim made this takana that it should take effect on the date of when it was signed, so then when he gets it in Tishrei, he'll be free lemafreya, from Nisan time. So whatever property he got, the Eved got between Nisan and Tishrei, if he wants to not confiscate it from a buyer, he's right. Because the release of him as an Eved goes back from Tishrei time. This is what from Nisan time, like Abaye said, from the time when it was signed. So Shapir, so then it's understood, there's no issue to give back this document. But there's another opinion that says that it's actually something which is negative. It's not good for the Eved to be freed from his master. And the reason for this is because if this Eved belongs to a Kohen, so he could eat all the truma from his master, the Kohen. So he has the food that he can get from that truma. When he's being freed, he loses that right now. He won't be able to eat from that truma anymore. So therefore, it's something which is not good for him to be freed from his master. So what are we going to say? You can't say that when the shtar is signed, so then even without giving it to him, automatically we say from that time already when it was signed, he gets freed. It's something which is a chay for him. You have to give it into his hands and he has to accept it in order for him to be freed. So, if so, over here we shouldn't give back this document. So the Gemara answers the same point that we said before regarding the get, that we give it back. And for the Gemara like this, the chiyasi mitraf, when he's going to come and want to confiscate from a property that was sold by the master in this time period, from this into Tishrei, we're going to tell him, prove to us what date exactly did you get this shtar shikhr into your hands, just like we said regarding the Gerisha, so we can give it back to him, for him to be able to prove that he's free, so he could go and marry a Jewish woman. But on the other hand, if he can't confiscate any property with this unless he proves when he got it. Okay, the next case it said in the Mishnah was a daitiki, a matane, v'chulu. If you have a shtar that's called a daitiki, the Gemara will explain right now what a daitiki means. This is a shtar that a person that's on his deathbed, a shchiv mirah, that writes as a gift that it should take effect after he passes away, or a matane, a gift that a person gives as a healthy person, that it should take effect when he's still alive. So if you find these kinds of shtaris, you don't return it to the person, the recipient. Tana Rabbana, we learned in the Bryce like this. What is a daitiki? What does this word mean? Daitiki. So it's a combination of a few words. Da tehei lemekim v'liyais. This should come to be that she'im meis, that if this person dies, nechasav leploni, that this person's property that he writes here in the shtar should go to so and so. So that's daitiki. It'll come to be if this person passes away. Matana, what is the matana? Kol shekasav bay, if it's written in the shtar, mehayim ula'achamisa. I give you this property from today, but you could only use it when I pass away. What that means is that the guf of the property, the actual property itself, I'm giving to you as a gift from today. But I don't want you to use it yet until I pass away. Until then, I want to be able to use it. And when I pass away, you'll get it. Which means if the person then tries to sell it before he passes away, he can't sell it because already the guf of the karka has been given as a gift to this person. Okay, so the Gemara now clarifies this last point the Braisa says regarding what a matana is. So the Braisa described that a matana is that you're giving the karka now, but you could only use it until he passes away. So the Gemara asks on that, how could you say that's what a matana means? Alme iksive mahayim ula'acha mise. Who the kani is this Braisa saying that if you give a gift and you write that I'm giving you the karka today, but you can only use it when I pass away, that's when the kinyan of this gift takes effect. But if you don't write such a kind of matana that you're getting it today, but you could only use it when I pass away, then the gift does not take effect. The Gemara is wondering, well, what would that mean? Obviously, if you want to give someone a gift and you're telling him, I'm giving you the gift right now, it's yours, and you can use it today, for sure the gift takes effect. So what's the Braisa saying that the gift means? Mahayoim ula'achamisa. So the Gemara clarifies, Abaye said, Hachi Kamar. What the Braisa was saying when it described a matana this way, it meant to say as follows: Ezi matnas body. What is a kind of a gift of a healthy individual? Shehi kemat nashchiv mirah, which is similar to the matana of the person that's on his deathbed that's giving a gift to someone that takes effect only after he passes away. Shchiv mirah, you only acquired it after this person passes away. So a kind of gift of a body which is similar to Shchiv mirah is if it's written in the shtar, Mehayim ula'achamisa, that I'm giving it to you today and it's yours already today, well you could only use it after I pass away. Okay, that's the simple pshat in the Braisa. Okay, but now the Gemara though comes back to the halacha itself that the Braisa said. What does it say in this Braisa? So the same in the Mishnah as well. Actually, the Braisa didn't talk befedish over here about a document that got lost and then found. Going back here to the Mishnah said that when you find these kind of documents, you don't return it to person, the recipient. Why? Because the person here is saying, if the person, it could be the person changed his mind and he never gave it. So therefore you can't give it back. So the Gemara now is medayik. So the only reason you don't give it back to the recipient is because the one that wrote this shtar is not here. He's not saying give it back to him. Because I agree, I Taka wrote this. But if the person himself is here and he that wrote it and says, I agree, I wrote it, give it to him. So then nice then, we do give it to him. That's what we see from our Mishnah. But the Gemara asks, and there's a contradiction from what it says in the Braisa. I'll ask you from a Braisa where it says, if you find daitakois, so again, this is the daitaki, the star of a shchivmira that writes as a gift, or a paitikois is where you write a star where someone borrowed money, and he's writing that there's a specific property that he's designating to collect a loan from there, or a matanis, or a star of a gift. Even if they both are admitting, you don't give it back, not to the one that wrote it, not to the recipient, you don't give it back at all. And the reason you don't give it back, Rashi explains here, and we'll see soon, the Gemara is going to explain Barichas about this, you don't give it back because it's a possibility that it was taka written, and he never ended up giving it to this person. He actually gave it a gift to someone else, but now the giver has charata from what he did, that he gave it to someone else, and he decides to himself, you know what, let me tell him to give back this shtar to this person. He already wrote it, he already gave it as a gift to someone else. But now he sees that this shtar was found, he makes up his mind, let's give it back to this person. And it's not right. He already changed his mind and gave it to someone else. So therefore we can't return it, even if the giver is here and agreeing and saying, give it back. So what do we see here? We are concerned that maybe he already gave it as a gift to someone else. He can't give back this kind of a shtar. So how does it say in our Mishnah, we're medayik from our Mishnah, that if the guy agrees, you could give it back? So Rabbi Bamamol says, like Kashya. There's no contradiction there. It's two different cases. The Braisa is speaking about a case where this is a shtar, this is a gift of a healthy individual, and and our Mishnah is speaking about a case of a shchivmira, person on his deathbed that's giving a gift. And there's a difference in these two kinds of gifts. The Gemara here now is going to go through in very big detail to explain exactly what's the difference between the body and the shchivmira. It's very uncharacteristic. You'll see here the language of the Gemara, this entire arichis. And the Rishonim here say that this entire next piece of Gemara, most of this next Amud over here, is an addition from the Ga'ainim that was added into the Gemara, from Rav Yehuda Gain. You'll see here the very uncharacteristic how the Gemara describes the difference in these two cases. Talk to Gemara Laizai. Mas Nise, when it comes to our Mishnah, the Ktani, it's said in our Mishnah, or we learned out from our Mishnah, Ha'omat nu naisnan, that if the person that wrote this star, this gift, and he's here, he's saying, give it back to him, so we give it back. What is it talking about? B'shchiv mira, it's talking about a person that's on his deathbed. And the point of this kind of a gift, of a shchiv mira, is the bar mahaderhu. This is the kind of gift that you're able to retract. That's the nakudah of this entire answer of the Gemara here. A body that gives a gift, once you gave it as a gift to someone, after it's given, you can't have charata from this gift. You gave it. But by a shchiv mira, because the gift only takes effect after he passes away, so the shchiv mira that writes a shtar, I'm giving a gift to this person, but until he passes away, you could have charata and give it to someone else. So therefore the point here is like this. Damrinan, we say, there's no reason to be concerned about giving back the shtar to this person. What are you going to be concerned about? Perhaps what happened is, maybe he originally wanted to give a gift and he wrote this shtar here to this individual, but and then he changed his mind, but he never ended up giving him this shtar, this gift. And then he wrote another document that he's giving this as a gift, as a matna shchiv mira to someone else. And he gave that shtar to that person, so he gave the gift really to someone else. So the Gemara says, but he could have charata. At any time, he could have charata from the first, the second. So So now he's having charata from that second person that he gave the gift to. So therefore, there's no issue to give back now this shtar to this person that he wants to give it back to now. And the Gemara explains, but the thing though is, he may have changed his mind and decided that he wants to give this gift to someone else, and he gave the gift to someone else, not just as a shchiv mira. When he changed his mind to give it to someone else, he may have decided to give it to someone else as a proper gift that he should be zoich in it now, matnas body. Okay, so then it does belong to someone else. It does not belong to this person. Or he may have decided to give it to someone else also as a matna shchiv mira, which means that the second person you decided to give it to, you could also have charata from and give it back to this person now that you want to give it to. So the Gemara is going to go through both of these scenarios, both of these possibilities, that either way it's not an issue. And the Gemara explains, if when you changed your mind and you decided to give it to someone else as a matnas bari, that he should be zeich in it right now, so let's say that there's no loss if you give back now this shtar of this matnas shchiv to this first person here. Why? Because the chinafki tarti, when you're going to have two shtaris, two people are going to show a shtar that they got a gift from this person, who's going to be the one that will be zeiche? Basrais is zachi. The second person is going to be zeiche. The hahada be'mikamaisa, because we see that he had charata from the first gift. That's how it works by matnas shchiv mira. If two people show that they got a gift from this person, so the first one is not going to be zeiche, because we see that he gave it to someone else afterwards. The fact that he gave it to someone else afterwards means that he had charata from the first gift. So the second person is going to get it. So there's no issue to give back the shtar to the first person. He's anyways not going to get it.
Who was the matnas body? The first person?
No, the second person. The second person got the matnas body, so therefore he's gonna keep his matana. Even if you give back this shtar, which is a matnas shchiv mira, to the first person, but the second person that has now the shtar of the matnas body will keep it because he came second. So that proves that the giver had charata from giving the gift to the first person, and it goes now to the second person. So there's no issue to give back this shtar to the first person. On the other hand,
Be able to use the shtar.
What?
Be able to use the shtar because the second person is keeping.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
to give it back.
Lots of pitzluchisai. Give it back to him. He'll use it maybe to cover a flask. Nothing. Anachanami, he won't be able to do anything with it. And now the Gemara says, "I b'matna shchiv mira nami of nehalei." If you're going to say that what might have happened over here is after he gave this matana to the first individual as a matana v'shchiv mira, he also gave it to the second one as a matana v'shchiv mira. So this is something that is not set in stone. Just like the first person that he gave it to only as a matana v'shchiv mira, you could have charata from that. The second person that he gave it to, he could also have charata from that. So lesbeb seide, so there's no loss of here of giving back this shtar. The basraise zachi, because the rule always is the last one that you give it to is the one that gets it. The kahada be'mekamaisa, because you're having charata from the first one. So even if your concern is that after he gave this gift as a matnas shchiv mira to the first person, he may have then gave it as a matnas shchiv mira to a second person, but now that the giver is here and it's telling us, give it back to this first person, what does that mean? That this person had charata a second time. He gave it to someone else, but now he's having charata, and he's saying, "Oh, give it back now to the first person because I want him to be zeich in it." And he's going to be the right one because he could always have charata. So right now he's saying, "Give it back to the first person. He's going to be the last one that I want to give it to." So therefore, there's no problem to give back this matnas shchiv mira. Again, the nekuda of this whole thing is the fact that he has the right to have charata. However, when it says in the Braise, that when you find a document of a gift and they're both, and the giver is admitting and he says, give it back, you don't give it back to any of them. The reason is, it's talking about a matana of a healthy person that's giving the gift now, this is something that you can't have charata from. So therefore we say, maybe he wrote it to this person as a gift first. And then he changed his mind. He never ended up giving him this shtar as a gift. So he never gave it to him. It's not a gift. And then he wrote a shtar and he gave it as a gift to someone else. And to him he gave the shtar. And that really there's someone else that was zeich in this gift. So this person now is retracting from the person that he truly gave the gift to the second individual that he gave the gift to. And V'savar, he thinks to himself like this, that I can't have charata from the gift that I gave to the second person because it's a matnas body, it's set in stone. You can't have charata from that. So therefore, what is he going to do? This person is lying. I'm going to say to the bezdin that really this is the person that I gave the gift to, and give him back the shtar. So now this person that you're giving back the shtar to, and he's going to take out a shtar, and the date on his shtar is before the second person that he gave it to, the first person is going to be zeich in it. So the truth is, there's a concern there. Not necessarily did you ever actually give this shtar to this first person. Maybe you gave the matnas body to someone else. You had charata. So therefore, we don't give back the shtar that was found now. We say to this giver that's saying, give it back to this person. Now we tell him, we're not going to give back this star to this person. And the Gemara goes through it again. Maybe you wrote the star for him, but he never gave it to him. And you really gave another star as a gift to someone else. And now you're just having charate. If you're not, again, so what we tell this person is, if it's true, like you said, that you never gave this as a gift, this property as a gift to someone else, the kabayis, the taste for lahai, and you want to give it as a gift not to this person, so you don't have to give him back this star. Right now a new star for him, give it to him now as a gift. And give him now a new star. So now, if you're going to write a new star with a later date, with the date from today, so if the truth is, if there's someone else that you actually did give this as a gift to, that was our concern, that maybe there was someone else that he truly gave the gift to, so let's say that there'll be no loss in writing a new star to this person that you want to give back the star to, because the Kadim Zachi, the other person that he may have given this as a gift to, will have a star that shows that he was Zeicha already from before. So the point is, in this case where you can't have charata from a matnas body, we're not going to give you back this star that was found, because possibly you never gave it to this person, you gave it to someone else. You want to give it to this person? Write him a new star today. So like that, if there's someone else that you truly gave it to, he's going to have an earlier date that you gave it to him first, and this person you want to give the star to back today will not be able to take it away from him. If he didn't give it to anyone else, he'll have a star that it's his, and it'll be his gift. But that star with a previous date, we're not going to give back. That's what the Bryce was saying.
He's losing after being tired from the Lekufa.
Could be, yeah, it could be, and the Chanami, but because of this concern, we can't give it back. But the Gemara asks on this answer, Maskefla Rav Zvid asked, but v'idi daitakois katani. How can you give this answer and say that the difference between the Mishnah and the Bryce is that the Mishnah is talking about a matna shchivmira, and the Bryce is talking about a matna's body? They both clearly said that they're talking about daitakois, which is the matana of a shchivmira. So hello, Rav Zvid. So therefore, Rav Zvid says a different answer, which comes back to the same, very similar point. Both the Braise and the Mishnah are talking about a case of a matana of a shchivmira, but then the difference though is v'loy kashya. There's no contradiction here. Ha bei. Over here in the Mishnah, it's when the person himself that is giving this gift, he's still alive, and he's here saying, give back this matana, this star to this person that I wrote it for. And v'ha bebrei. And the Braise is talking about a case where the person died already. Now it's the son that's here that's saying, give back this star to this person that my father gave a gift to him. So that's the difference why in the Braise it says you give it back, but in the Mishnah it says that you can't give it back. And the Gemara it will explain, again, did I say it right? In the Mishnah, from the Mishnah we're medayik that you could give it back. In the Braise it says that you don't give it back. And the Gemara explains, again, this is, like I mentioned, this is from the Gaonim that I added over here explaining what this answer is. Masnisin, and the point is going to be the same, because what's the difference between the person himself that gave the matna shchivmira and the son? It's the same point that the Gemara said before. The person himself could have charata from it until he dies. But if we're talking about the son, after this person dies, you can't have charata. So it comes back basically to the same point that the Gemara explained before. So Masnisin, they call matnu naisnen, from the mission that we learned out, that if the person is here and he says give it back, we actually give it back bidi day. It's the person himself that's still alive. The bar mehedahu. So he could have charata from the gift, the matna shchivmira. So the Amrina, and therefore we say, Inami Yavile in a even if he changed his mind and he gave this matna shchivmira to someone else, let's say that there's no loss over here to give it back to this person. The Kame u Basra Zachi, because the rule is when you have the matna shchivmira, you gave it to one guy first, and you change your mind and give it to someone else, the one that's last is always Zeiche. The Hahade Ben Mekame. Because you had charata from the first one. So over here, if you want to now give it back to this person, so you haven't charata, you want to give it back to him, so we give it back to him. The Gemara doesn't go through the whole arichas again that it did before, but the Gemara says the point now. Now, kikatani bebraise, when it says in the braise, that you don't give it back, even if the one that gave it says give it back, it's because bebrei. It's talking about the person that gave it already passed away, and now it's only the son that's here. So over here we say, Dilme, maybe what happened was the father wrote a star to give it to this person. It could be the father changed his mind. He never actually gave it as a gift to this person. Now, ubasar avua, or the out of the basar the misavua, after the father passed away, kasav iu le'inish achrine v'yavale. What happened is the son wrote and gave this as a gift to someone else. So it was already given as a matnas body to someone else. And now this son wants to have charata from the gift that he gave to someone else. And he can't have charata. So he thinks to himself, I can't have charata from this gift that I gave to this person because it's a matnas body, you can't have charata. So let me tell the people that found now this document that says that my father already gave it to someone else. So let me tell them that my father gave it to this individual. And they'll give him this star that it was given to him as a gift. And then V'nezel will go and V'nofik minei will take it away from this person that I gave it as a gift to. The son gave it as a gift to someone else. We're going to take it away from that person. Because the huzachi, because the one that was first, the one that my father gave it already as a gift to, he was already zaych in it. And then this is here. The Gemara here adds this is a knunya. This is they're colluding over here. What's going to happen is v'niflig bahadei, and this son that now is going to take it away from the one that he gave it as a gift to and give it back to this other person. So now he's going to say to him, "I got this property for you. Let's split it, me and you." So therefore, we can't give back this shtar. Because there's a concern. Maybe it was already given to someone else and he's just taking it away from that person. Again, the point here is because once he gave it, you can't have charata. So we tell this person, now we tell him, the son, as follows. This document that was found there, that the father gave it as a gift, we're not going to give back to him. And again, the Gemara explains that maybe the father wrote it, but the father never ended up giving it to him. And you already gave it as a gift, matnas body, to someone else. You're just having charata from that. And you can't have charata. You want to take it away from the true recipient of the gift that you gave it to. So Ella, we tell him like this: if what you're saying is true, the yav le'avuch, that the father already gave it to this person, zil at hashtag sivle shtara achrine. You give him a gift now. Go and write him a star that you're giving him a gift. The inami lo yav is le'avua, even if your father did not give it to this person, and the truth turns out that you already gave it to someone else, les beip seder. There will be no loss for the fact that you will give this, you'll write now that you want to give it as a gift to this person. The kama obasre kama zachi. Because when it comes to a matnas body, and you have two people that take out a star saying that I got a gift from this person, who's the one that gets it? The one that has the star that he in the earlier date. So therefore, we're not giving you back this star matana that your father gave it to him. You write a new star today. And if it's true that you did not give this as a gift to someone else, he'll keep it. But if it's true that you gave it as a gift to someone else, that other person that has an earlier date will keep it and he won't. And that's why the Brisa says that we don't give back the star.